6:30. Call this meeting of the Manchester by the Sea Select Board to order. Jeff?
Yeah.
Brian?
Here.
Kathy?
Here.
Ann is here. John?
Here,
There.
there.
Okay. The first I should say that this meeting is being recorded. The next is public comments on non-agenda items. Okay,
Nothing on one.
okay. But there is no chairman's report. We can look at the action items. I noticed one, I think. Yeah, a quarterly review of the town administrator is scheduled for a year before now.
Yep.
A year ago.
2026.
Okay, the rest of them.
Strike again. Who put that in there?
I'll take it. I'll take it.
Well, that's
I'll
gonna
probably,
cost us.
I'll probably do it for another month or so too. Until I get adjusted.
Oh,
Now, the last time we did quarterly review, the police chief and fire chief were before us as well. And we had a quick discussion after that the board felt that wasn't necessary, that the quarterly review with the fire and police chief should be between the town administrator. So I took them off but left
mhm.
mine on. But just want to bring up at the next, I'm actually away that week of our next select board meeting, so after this, we have to talk about whether you want to move the next meeting up a week, back a week, or just wait until the following February 3rd.
Yeah, I'm not that 50-50 as to whether or not I'd be able to call in, because I'm also on vacation that week and flying that day, so.
So
It's a
we could-
Tuesday, the 20th, it's not a Monday. I thought we were gonna be.
Right, yeah, that Monday is the holiday. So we have some scheduling to discuss.
I don't get those days. I don't get it. I don't get it.
Yeah, and I'm probably calling in on that, the 20th also.
So we're on Monday.
So
So
do we
Kathy
want
is away on the 20th of
be on
February.
the 27th,
Yeah.
26th.
26th.
Okay, I'm away the week of the, what is it, the 20th?
Yeah,
26th.
I'm here on the 26th, if you guys want to do the 26th.
I'm not here I'm away that week leading up to March 1st.
You gone 2 weeks or you gone 1 week,
No,
John?
I'm gone 1 week, so I depart on what, the 26th, 27th, May? I guess I'm gone the 20, I don't know what it is. I have to look at the
Would
calendar.
you leave on a Monday?
No, I leave on a Saturday and return Sunday a week later.
So the 26th we're talking. I can do the 26th.
I think John is saying that maybe when he's not here.
We can figure it out offline,
Yeah.
another,
Yeah.
outside of this meeting, we're
Yeah.
allowed to do that.
How's the agenda with even too early to speak with? Gonna be on the agenda at this point?
I have some, we have a national grid hearing that needs to be taking place. We have the quarterly review, updates on budget, things like that right now.
Oh,
I think there's no point in our meeting on the 20th if you're.
I'm gone the 21st to the 28th.
So I will
Yeah.
I'll connect with you guys and we'll
Yeah.
pick a date. But John's gone the 20th to the 28th.
And I'm. I think meeting in another week is. Either way, we're going to have two meetings a week apart, so.
Yeah,
Fine. Then find some time when we can meet.
I will.
Thank you. Okay. Anything else that should be on the actions list that is not? Okay. The next item on the list is the tree policy update. And Kathy, do you want to?
Yeah, so sorry for the last minute addition this morning. There was a meeting, myself, Chuck Dam, Ruth Fitzgerald, and Jody Morris from Friends of Trees. We met right before Christmas to discuss, an approach for updating the tree policy. So I don't have a tree policy here for you to review with updates. It's more if we can get aligned on the approach, which is a two-phased approach, then we can take some next actions and do the refinements. So basically, as it says in my note, the tree hearings we've been having over the past few years have uncovered areas of confusion surrounding the tree policy. So that's why, we kind of all feel like it needs some updating. So we're recommending a two-phased approach. Number one, which we feel is a just go do and can be done very quickly, is to fix the public shade tree definition that's in our policy. There's an assumption written in the policy. I think Debbie actually included the policy in the package. But there's an assumption in there regarding the location of the right of way, the public right of way. And we'd like to eliminate that assumption. For example, that it's 11 feet from the pavement and some other verbiage that is unique to Manchester. We'd like the public shade tree definition to simply state that the public shade tree, it's highlighted in yellow on the paper here, any tree within or on the boundaries of a public way, okay, other than a state highway, and is further defined in Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 87, Section 1. So basically, we don't want to redefine what a public shade tree is. The state already does that. And we'd like to have that be the definition in our policy. So if you agree to that, what I can do is I can redline the policy, bring it back here for formal
Okay,
review. And, but we feel that's kind of a just go do, and I'll,
okay, so this is section E of 2 definitions that you would replace.
yes.
Okay.
So that's the first thing. We can get alignment on this, eliminating our unique definition. The second aspect here is we feel there are other changes that need to be made, but we would like to have more input than just either the select board discussing amongst ourselves or, the Friends of Tree and DPW is working it together. So we are proposing a small ad hoc task force to address the items A through E on the sheet here. Basically, it's around clarifying any areas that are confusing, understanding the best practices in other towns and cities, specifically what should be in a town bylaw versus a policy. And the big thing I think is really establishing standards of care for the town trees, the roles and responsibilities, and then, if there's what kind of enforcement fees, et cetera. So those are a lot of things that we have. Our current policy kind of dabbles in it a little bit, but there are other tree policies in other towns that have a little more structure, a little more clarity, information, and we feel with the right public input, we could improve the tree policy. So we are recommending a small task force to go do that. Personally, I didn't discuss this with, Jody and Chuck and Ruth, but for me, the task force is inviting people to participate if they choose not to because they feel they don't need to. That's fine. We just want to give people an opportunity to have a say in how we improve the policy. So that's kind of item number 2, and I'd like to hear feedback from the select board, and then we have a number of members here from Friends of Trees, and I don't know if Chuck or Ruth is on the call from DPW.
Who is going to be on this ad hoc committee?
So that's the bottom statement here. So DPW, so we did kind of recommend Ruth from DPW because she's in all the nitty gritty, Ruth Fitzgerald. A member of the select board, Concom, certainly Friends of Manchester Trees. We'd like to get some input from the tree company that we actually use to do the pruning and care of the trees. They probably have some input. Certainly the tree warden and an at-large resident commending. So again, these would be inviting these people to participate. They don't have to, they don't want to, but I certainly, you know, the discussion was myself, Chuck, Ruth, and Jody, and the four of us thought this would be a likely group of people who would have an interest in helping us improve the policy. That's,
We don't always use the same tree company, right? It goes to bid though.
We usually, well, Chuck's on the call, but I think we use
so,
the same company primarily.
yes,
Johnny Appleseed.
But if it's a larger project that triggers procurement rules, we'd have to put it out to bid. I don't know if we have like a multi-year contract with that company to service our.
yeah, Chuck can go into the, he explained to us was that there's a primary tree company, but if for some reason there's a sense of urgency or they can't get to it for scheduling, they would call in, you know, the secondary tree company, but we pretty much.
Right. So I can chime in. We do have a on-call contract with a tree company. It's Sequoia Tree. It's a 3-year contract, and it's, you know, we have bid items in there for each kind of tree, you know, size and what they have to do with it, whether it, you know, takes a crane or a climber and all those types of things. So that's kind of the standard that we start with. But like Tony said, if there was something different, you know, as part of one of our other projects, like a water main project or a roadway project that required additional work, like that would be done with a different contractor, theoretically. We haven't really had much of that, but that's how it would work.
Thank you.
Anything else from the board?
It sounds like this is me being me. Sounds like we're not in any hurry, because you know my feelings about committees and.
And I agree.
keep on kicking things down the road, and everyone's gonna have a say in it. I frankly think that the group that met,
Mhm.
okay. The little group you had before
Yeah.
Christmas is perfect as far as just working out the policy. Then we can roll the policy out, then if anyone wants to comment on it. But to get another committee together, another working group together, it seems to me is like we're shoveling stuff into the tide.
Is there a timeline that's expected for this committee to come up with a final recommendation? Or maybe we should establish one. Is this
Yeah,
like
I think it's great if we do establish one. We did not discuss timing specifically. However, you know, I think before spring would be nice.
I was gonna give them 6 months, but
Oh, yeah. May we hear from the Friends of Trees at some point, Jody? And
I wanted to make
other-
sure that everybody on the
Yeah.
board had a chance to, yes, I noticed your hand up.
Thank you. My name is Jody Morse, and I'm actually the president of the Friends of Trees. I have a few board members back here that have joined me, and I think there are a couple online as well. So I really just want to speak to support Kathy's leadership in getting this on your agenda, getting this, what seems like a minor change to the definition, but it is something that the DPW has been asking for. It seems like it was an easy change. And as far as the ad hoc committee or the whole idea of revisiting the tree policy, a couple of historical points. We adopted this tree policy in January of 2021. I should say I was not involved at that point, so it's easy for me to come in and say, you know, what it should or shouldn't do. But interestingly enough, if you look at other towns and you look at the work that the Department of Conservation and Recreation has been doing over the last 5 or 6 years on tree policies in Massachusetts, I think when this was put together in 2021, Manchester was a little bit ahead of the game, so to speak. And I think it was something that has matured. Let me put it that way. I don't think this is going to be a difficult thing to do. There are so many policies out there. They have the DCR has a recommended approach to developing a tree policy, looking at what our goals are, looking at what we currently have. There's just a nice runway for us to use. But I do think having a broader group involved than the DPW and the Friends of Trees, which is basically what we have been doing together, is important, because this is important for the whole town. People do talk about the trees. They do want some removed. They're shocked when some aren't removed. I think we need a groundswell of understanding across the town of how we do feel like our trees are important to us as a community. They're part of our architecture and living, you know, infrastructure. So I do think having a broader group, not to slow it down, but to just make sure that people are aware of what we're doing and that we present it in full form And whether the deadline is spring, I think we can certainly manage that.
Do you think it's likely that we will need a town bylaw?
The DCR recommends that you have a bylaw. I think when we started this, my understanding looking historically, let's come up with this tree policy. It's not a bylaw. Let's kind of try it out, see how we like it. I see no reason why not to do that again. To present this as a policy, get everybody to understand it, and maybe do the bylaw the following year. But generally, you want to have some kind of authority to uphold the rules, whether it's you're not allowed to take this tree down and there's a fine if you do, or whatever it happens to be. It's hard to do that, I think, without a bylaw, but Tony can probably weigh in on that.
Well, I was also wondering, I was wondering the same thing because of being a Tree City designated community, if that required some sort of general, simple bylaw, or if it just requires policy.
It does require a policy. So, and we have had a policy, but my understanding is that they have not added, it has to be a bylaw or a, any kind of a law.
Okay.
So we're not going to try and put together something for April.
No, not for town meeting, no.
No, town
It
meeting.
was more for the growing season, for lack of a better phrase, rather than trying to get something for town meeting. Yeah.
Okay.
But I think, Brian's bringing up a really good point. Is there a way to get that input in a different way? Just working the small group that we had, I thought everybody was, all on the same page, so to speak. And then once we recommend some changes, going out to these other, members to see what, get their feedback, get targeted feedback. And then perhaps through a communication campaign with the residents, get their feedback that way. I'm not opposed to doing that.
To your point, why are we reinventing the wheel?
Right.
If the DCR has all these policies out there, this small group can adopt what they feel is, fits the needs of the communities. And then that becomes the foundation for our policy. But my experience, we put a lot of people in a room, they're all gonna have ideas, and it's gonna take forever.
Okay, I mean, I think.
That's just my opinion.
I think the issue is, we're not going to start with, here's a whole list of policies. I'll take one from column A and one from column B. A lot of this is what do we want to get out of this? Do we want to protect our trees more than we are today? What are we willing to say is important to us as a community? So some of it is kind of coming up with a baseline, just like writing the policy is the easy part. What do we really want to do? So do we want to protect trees during construction? How are we going to do that? So I think those are broader questions.
I get that, but I believe that we make the circle bigger. There's gonna be individual agendas, all right? And we're gonna be beating our head for a while, as opposed to, I trust the Friends of Trees.
Right.
And I trust the DPW to do what they've been charged to do. And now we're just asking you to further define what you've already been charged to do. And with our help, create a bylaw. You come up with a foundation for the bylaw, and then come back, and then we'll put it on the
I
line.
would say that the Friends of Trees already has a great deal of information and given a lot of thought to this already. So I do think we could, like you said, we always talked about this being iterative a little bit because, we wrote that policy in 2021, I guess, and then we had the hearings and, okay, we realized where some of our missteps were. If we take the iterative approach, do some things, maybe make a couple of changes to the policy and do it that way. We can get the input we need, through some communication to the residents and ask for feedback. And so I'm not opposed to what Brian's proposed. I don't know, Chuck, what do you think?
Yeah, I think it definitely I think it's going to have to go wide at some point, no matter what, right? So there's no harm in us kind of drafting it and continuing it as a draft, and then, going wider with more communication and more input. So I'm fine with that.
Another approach would be to start by having a forum
Right.
and getting, that might find. This group would be able to bring in other people if they had, so start with by publicizing that we're working on this and we would like community input. And it can be written, it can be show up, it can be, yeah.
Yeah, and maybe, you know, I think, you know, Friends of Trees has a great sense as to what some of the questions are, right? You just spouted a few of them right there that we, you know, need answered from the community. We have a very targeted
Mhm.
campaign and
Yeah.
and get feedback. I think that's a
Okay,
good approach.
I think we can do that.
Okay.
I need
Alright.
your help, Kathy.
Yeah.
Free time.
But that's great. So, I mean, if you guys are okay with the first item, just
May
redlining.
I would like to move that we change paragraph E of two of the definitions of the public shade and town tree policy to state that a public shade tree is any tree within the boundaries of a public way other than a state highway and as further defined in Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 87, Section 1.
Second.
Any discussion? Jeff,
Yes.
Brian,
Yes.
Kathy?
Yes.
Anne says yes, so we don't have to have a, John,
And John says yes.
good. We don't have to have another meeting to discuss
Okay.
that one.
So just from a process standpoint, when we've updated policies in the past, we had to redline them, bring them in for a first reading, and then do a second reading. We don't need to do that in this case, or do we need to do this? We don't need to do that in this case?
I mean, I think that's when you're making just a quick adjustment.
Okay.
You know, if it was like a full rewrite.
So the next version, we might have to have the redlining.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay,
once we
got it.
go through this process and come together with some suggested changes, that'll be a little bit more formal, but this is pretty simple and I think
Sounds
we
good
could
to
just
me.
make the adjustment.
All right, so I'll
Okay.
take that action to do that.
Right, and, that, let's have a general consensus that the group that began,
Mhm.
will start by soliciting input from the town
Mhm.
and, working on a further rewrite. And that the meetings of that group be, the meetings be open
Mhm.
and
Open.
publicized.
Open.
Ann, are we gonna put a timeline on all of this?
I think we would like them to report back,
Mhm.
1st of May.
Okay.
We don't have to have a complete work product on 1st of May, but
Yeah.
that we would like to have.
Progress report.
So that goes on the action items.
Yep.
Now 2026.
Yeah. You wanna make it a true ad hoc committee.
Yes.
Okay,
Sounds good, thank you.
is there anything else that the Friends of Trees or the Friends of Trees would like to add to this?
I think this is great. We'll produce something for sure.
Okay, just to understand, I think the committees over good ideas go to die.
Ryan, I understand where you're coming from.
Yes.
Sure. Thank you.
That's good.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you guys for all your work. Appreciate it. Thanks, Chuck.
I forgot to get the papers today. Oh, well,
That time we hear again.
yeah, it's that time of year, yeah. Right. Next item on the agenda is liaison of updates. I can certainly state that none of the committees that I attend have done anything in, oh, that's not true. Yes, Jeff.
I don't have anything for you.
Okay, Brian.
Trying to remember, did we, before or after the ZBA approved the cargo building or not, I forget. That was,
I don't remember.
Yeah, it was, anyway, Chicago
It
building,
was, they met before,
so we've already.
but our last meeting was the joint meeting with the finance committee, so I don't think we,
All right, so
had spoke about it.
Chicago, after long conversations, it was unanimously approved. It's on its way to the planning board now. That's the VA, Parks and Rec. Everything's going well. I think that they will have their naming policy for us very soon
Mhm.
and their recommendations. And not only the town volunteers, we're not going to, just be vote on A, B, or C or something like that. So that's, I know they've got, I think, 3 or 4. And I don't know when that's gonna make the agenda. They next meet on 1/21. And beyond that, other notes I have. You good?
Catherine?
Actually, I had all my committees actually had very long meetings right after ours. So quickly, so Bike and Ped, one of the co-chairs, David Saunders, is resigning from the committee. He's just got a lot on his plate, so we're gonna need to post for a new member there. I think that'll be, I anticipate easy to fill. There are a number of people who regularly show up to the meetings, and I suspect will apply for the open slot once it's posted. They did, see, I think it was Bike and Ped, maybe it was Downtown Improvement. One of my committees asked about the prior commitment that we had, I think it was Downtown Improvement, to follow up on redoing the signs, the ones that were posted around town that had the font that was too small. They just wanted an update on, are we gonna redo those? Are we not? Where does that stand? I thought there was a commitment to redo them on the next order, but we've seen some other signs pop up, like trail signs and stuff like that. It wasn't clear if we were gonna get.
Yeah, the way that, the last I had heard, we were open to, increasing the font size on those, potentially just, layering over
Right.
the existing. But we wanted to have like a discussion of what that cost was gonna be and how that would impact round 2 and whatever the budget is, so.
So
I'm not sure
it's not-
who's
That's the
actually,
point. They're not clear, because it's not really a committee responsibility. So they're not clear who's taking the ball on that and where that stands. So if you wouldn't mind just getting
Yeah,
me something I
okay.
can relay back to them, that would be helpful.
Okay.
The MBTA advisory board met, as did the passenger rail committee. Now, the MBTA advisory board has a new chair. The Medford mayor is taking that role now. Boston University performed a comparison of the MBTA against peer systems, and we should be getting a report that will be published in early 2026. One of the things they mentioned, Tony, is that the board has regular meetings with members of the state legislature. And member cities and towns are welcome to attend those meetings. So for example, when they meet with Bruce Tarr, would you like to, attend? So, I'll get you the name of the person you just send the request to, and they will include you in on those meetings, okay? The big focus this year for the T though is the World Cup presentation, changes they need to make to support all those people going to Gillette. So we'll see how much attention is given to those of us on the North Shore. The interesting comment out of the passenger rail committee was we had a parking discussion. So the senior director of advertising, parking and station access presented some parking information, and it was really geared towards increasing parking at MBTA stations because that is a barrier to many people using the MBTA. They can't find a parking spot. So I asked, well, what about the times when that lot is empty? Can we use those spaces? And he said, yes. So there is a licensing approach they have that we could potentially license the parking spots during periods of low utilization. So, Tony, I didn't know if you wanted to follow up with him or you want me to follow up with him and try and get some more info on that. But maybe we could do that on summer weekends when, you know, not many people are driving to Manchester to use the T. So anyway, that's a thought.
And have to drive through. Right.
Right.
But they're on the gauntlet right there, going, no, I'm going over here.
So maybe we could leverage those for extra
Is
spaces.
there a cost for that? Or-
I don't know,
Oh.
but there's a program they have that they will license. And what they said was, I asked, how do people pay for those spaces? They said in most of the lots, they use license plate readers. Do we have any of that? I'm wondering if they even
No.
charge at all.
We
So-
don't have that here because
Yeah.
it's a shared lot.
The
And
MBTA ones are kind of not blocked off, but they are labeled.
Right, but usually those license plate readers are when you have one entrance and one exit.
Yeah. So I think it's a free for all and it's a underutilized asset in the town. So I think we should pursue that, especially if they're willing to license the utilization to us.
I think that's what they use at the garage in Beverly.
Beverly, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But he didn't say garages, he actually said lots. Most of the MBTA places in the suburbs like Andover and stuff like, they don't have garages, they all have lots, so. I'm wondering if it's really, you know, a gate or if they have something, I don't know. I don't know, we gotta get more info, but
Back in
it's,
the old days, you'd have to, remember it was like a big board and you had to, find the number you were parked at.
right,
Yeah.
right, that's what
Yeah, they moved away from that.
yeah.
Even the electronic version of that, they
Yeah.
moved away from,
Right.
where it's just, you know, there's no gate. When you drive in, it reads your plate. When you
Right.
drive out, it reads, and then it mails you a bill.
Yeah, it's either a monthly program or they mail you a bill if you're not on the monthly program, that's what he said. So anyway.
It's a smart
But
city.
it's not- It's not like, they don't have a camera in front of every space is my point.
Right.
So I don't know how they would be able to do that.
I don't know either. So anyway, it's worth digging into a little bit. Because they're always looking for revenue generating opportunities, so that's potentially one. The other thing I mentioned was that I have heard from more than one resident. I think it was during the Festival by the Sea and during some of the Downtown Improvement Committee meetings. People would like that station to be a little more welcoming. You come off the train and we would like it to be a little more welcoming. So that's one of the things I'll probably advocate for as we go into the next year. But anyway, the parking thing was interesting, so I thought I'd mention that. And I think that's it.
the one group that I follow, we met with the finance committee, so we all know what that's about. The Board of Health had there's a move by the state to consolidate boards of health. So that and a first step is providing money for a pair or more of towns to hire an inspector. And it's a fairly generous amount of money. And Gloucester has offered to join with us. But the deadline was December 31st. And the Board of Health felt that they hadn't had time enough to look at the proposal. And part of that was that Gloucester took 3 months to look at the proposal. So we have informally been granted some extension, but I think there is feeling on the Board of Health that their independence is important. And that they don't really want to be a subsidiary of Gloucester.
Sounds to me as if the state would disagree.
This happened 4 or 5 years ago. Hamilton and Wenham and Ipswich, I think, were forming a group and wanted Manchester to join them. And eventually the Board of Health just said no.
What about, now, what is Essex doing? I'd rather,
Essex is in with, Essex took our place
oh, in Hamilton.
in Hamilton with the Hamilton group.
Or what happens if we were to ask Essex to leave and come with us?
Mm,
This may
They-
not
they-
be a good time to do that.
Yeah. And Hamilton, that group did extend
Sure that we can-
another invitation to us.
they did, okay.
But when they did, our board was already in discussion with Gloucester.
Okay.
So they did reach out and invite us to their group again. Just to take a step back, the added inspector services is kind of like an add-on to the idea. What the state had done was an analysis of local boards of health and how they're performing as to their requirements, their existing requirements under state law for reporting to the state and what their standards are. And most communities fell short of that because, local boards of health are typically underfunded, and there's a lot that they're already obligated to do. So the state then put funding to kind of help communities come up to the performance level that they want to be at through a regional approach. So I think the core of the approach is to actually help your board of health or your health department meet your existing obligations as far as tracking and reporting and process. And then some additional benefit there is if we needed another inspector for whatever reason to come in, we could call, the regional agreement and bring that inspector in. But it doesn't, I think you're right, that the Board of Health was a little hesitant at first because of how it could impact their independence. But after the discussion that we had and the follow-up information, I think they're starting to see, where there could be some benefit there.
So it's not combining boards of health, it's combining the town, city resources that the Board of Health leverages to do their job. But the Board of Health for Manchester would still be an elected,
Absolutely.
whatever board
Yep. Yeah.
here. Okay.
Yeah. And so Gloucester is the primary town under the grant from the state. And they're looking for towns because it is supposed to be regional. They've already brought in some staff paid for through that grant to look at their procedures, their reporting, review the assessment that every town did and see where we're underperforming, come up with ways to, meet that obligation. And they've already done a lot of work there, which I think could benefit us, just be able to adopt some of those procedures. So I think there's benefit there, but certainly I can understand, our Board of Health and their concerns, but I think that could be fixed with having some internal policy as to when our staff lean on that agreement and for what reasons. They talked a lot about how when they went to the town to ask for the funds to hire a health agent, it was primarily to handle those inspections. And so they were concerned that if they started leaning on the inspector through the regional agreement, that it kind of went back on their original intent. So that they don't have to do that, though. That could just be an asset to use when needed.
And
So-
the money is specifically for new service or new, it can't be used to pay existing employees for what they're currently doing.
Right.
So there's
So
no,
for enhanced services.
so there's no upfront savings. It would be additional down the road type savings.
Well, I guess it would be avoided costs is the way I look at it,
Cost.
because we do have, our department has an obligation, to the state as far as certain types of reporting and all that. I don't know the details, but I imagine if we don't, start to improve on those things, there could be costs down the road. So this is a way to help us with that. So Gloucester's approach is to really use the funds to standardize a lot of their procedures so that if the funding goes away, it's in place and they continue to do it in-house, which I think we could possibly benefit from.
So in essence, this is mutual aid. just like, you know, if
Well,
we're overwhelmed. we-
I was gonna say, it's very similar, sounds very similar to even what, the chief of police uses, that he taps that extra regional agreement he's got for July 4th and stuff, you know. I agree, it's an important approach, and what I would,
That part is like the additional benefit to
Right.
me. The core of it is establishing standards
Yeah.
within our existing staff and
Yeah.
process.
Yeah.
That, so that we're meeting our requirements.
so as you talk with the Board of Health, what I would encourage you to, help them understand is when it comes to compliance, that is a target-rich environment for shared services.
Mhm.
Regionalization is just a form of a shared service,
Yep.
because there should be no differentiation between how Gloucester and Manchester and Essex answered the state
State
question,
Yeah,
okay?
Exactly.
There should be no differentiation. So it is a target-rich environment, and it helps us practice, you know, the behaviors we need for good, you know, shared services agreements with other towns. So it's a very good use of
I
that
guess
approach.
The question is, whose decision is it? Is it ours or the Board of Health?
Board of Health. And I guess I signed the intermunicipal agreement as well.
But they have to agree to the intermunicipal agreement.
Yep.
Yeah, Tony, you said most Board of Healths are not meeting all of the state requirements with regard to reporting and other aspects. I'm assuming that there are probably some areas in Manchester where we're not meeting all of the requirements that the state has set, and that this would be the target for this initiative.
Correct.
Okay,
And the other reason for standardizing, shared services around compliance is once you standardize the processes, then you can automate. Okay, and then it becomes even lower cost. So it's really important. We don't have the breadth and the girth to do any type of automation in that area, any real automation. But once you get a big scale, you can make it a lot easier for people to do everything.
I'm a fan, so.
There, the Board of Health meeting Thursday morning. With that discussion. The consent agenda.
whoop. I haven't given my report yet, Ann.
Sorry.
I was out of mind here, John.
Okay. Sorry, John.
That's correct. And I just want on the record, there really isn't much of a report to give. The library and the HDC did not meet since we've met last. The DPW and I were both out probably as much as we were in over the past 2 or 3 weeks or so. So it's been business as usual there, no new developments. The seniors continue to ask where we are with regard to the purchase and sale agreement, and perhaps you can comment on that, Tony, because that changes. I'm not saying daily, but it changes maybe during the week, every week, and I don't have necessarily the latest information. But if you can update all of us on that in your report, that would be great.
Thank you, John. Sorry.
Fine.
Fine. Consent agenda.
I move that we approve the consent agenda.
Discussion. John.
Yes.
Anne says yes. Kathy.
Yes.
Brian.
Yes.
And Jeff.
Yes.
Okay. We can start signing.
So before getting into the operating and capital budget, just a couple other items. So for the senior center, last week, Chuck and I met with members from the Masons and John Harden, taking a look at the proposed floor plan, and part of the documents that'll be included in the closing is showing what is Mason's area, what's the town area, what's the common space. So we wanted to talk with them about where we were, and we made some adjustments that made that a lot simpler. So John is putting together that there'll be the existing floor plan, the future floor plan, and then the plan that shows what's common and what's town and what's Masons. So we had to make a couple adjustments there to make it simple. The most recent versions of the master deed, the condo docs, have been shared with the Masons. They were meeting today internally to go through some of those and hopefully get some feedback, but I think we're pretty close. I feel confident that we're close there. The other document that I want to really wrap my head around is the side agreement. I think as far as the elements of the side agreement post-construction, I think we're all on the same page. The part that I haven't really dove into myself is the arrangement between the town and the Masons pre-construction. This is another, tricky part of this process here, is that if we close tomorrow and construction doesn't happen for X amount of time, in between that, the Masons are actually on, our side of the building, and the space there that we could use in the meantime is on their side of the building, if you're referring to the condo docs. So the side agreement has to speak a little bit to how that works pre-construction, so we're working that part out. And then we had a request that I emailed all of you, and I did not double check to make sure it got on the agenda, but we had a request for track use, or the track team to use the cemetery for practicing. Their season goes from December to the first week of February. So they're halfway through their season. I emailed with them today to see what how they would like to proceed, because the policy says that there's no recreation allowed. However, the select board can make an exception if they desire. The coach requested that it be brought in front of the select board for consideration. Given the dates and the season, I'm asking him how he'd like to proceed, if it's something that they want to put in front of you for, at this point, it would probably be for next year. And I also asked, is there anything else, are there alternatives that he's thought of that we could maybe help that don't have that non-recreational policy attached to it? So
this is for Pleasant Street Extension?
I believe so,
So
yeah.
is it for the cross country, like the long distance runners, or not sprinters?
No, it's long distance, yeah.
I was guessing.
I guess the
Yeah,
loop
it's
there is,
Yeah,
the
people
loop
long
there
distance.
is 400 meters. It's like perfect for
Yeah.
what they're looking to do. But I can understand the policy and why it is the way that it is. So unfortunately, I didn't think, because it didn't make it on the agenda, and people may want to weigh in on that, I didn't think we could add it to tonight's meeting. The other one I had sent you was about whether the state whether we were going to send a letter into the Speaker of the House about the special election for Rep. Ferrante's seat. The day I sent that to you, they announced the special election, so we don't have that here.
Is there a budget issue?
There is, the state will cover some of that cost. So on Thursday, when I meet with the finance committee, I'll give them a heads up of what we estimate our cost to be. That's, the reserve fund. It's perfect for that type of request, but we'll wait until after the invoices come in to seek the reserve fund request. But it's probably, around, it could be plus or minus a couple grand from 10,000. Yeah. Luckily, it may come down because we may not be required to do like extensive early voting.
Okay.
On the culvert, we got a first draft from Ty and Bond for our MVP action grant application. It's extremely thorough, very pleased with it. Where Nate is reaching out to our contact at the state to see if we can schedule a meeting to go through that with them prior to the RFP going out for the grant application process, because once that goes live, they really can't talk to us about our application. So we're trying to get in to talk to them about our draft prior to that happening. And
Is this a draft of the design or?
no,
what
this
is
is
it?
a draft of our application for the grant. And since we're going for the $5 million, the largest amount you can ask for, we really need to make sure that we do a good job with the application. And they offered to talk with us about it before the grant gets released, so we're gonna try and take advantage of that. We have the Christmas tree bonfire this Friday at Masco Park at 6 p.m. I met with the police chief and fire chief at DPW today to go through our plan for that event. They did a very thorough job putting together an incident action plan, and I think we got all our bases covered. And as far as forecast right now, it looks like Friday is probably the better day, so likely we'll go Friday.
To that point, and I asked Jake earlier, a couple of people approached me about the asphalt itself. And will there be any potential damage to the, and then,
We're moving it to the grass.
okay.
So that opens up parking, prevents we don't have to put sand down to protect the asphalt, and it's better for crowd control, so we're actually gonna move it over.
Oh, okay. Well, trying toward the south or?
It'll be like in the outfield,
Oh, okay.
basically, yeah.
It's about the infield where it needs to be.
Yeah.
Well, that doesn't sound so good for the grass.
Actually,
Grass.
it
And the
actually,
infield, there's no grass.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
it actually won't,
Better for the grass.
it won't, the grass will probably grow back better. We've, in the hot when we did it, we always did it on the grass and we never had any
Really?
long-term
No, I
issues.
think they do a controlled burn and what, other people do control burn.
So we're moving it there. And then that opens up parking too, so. I interviewed a candidate today for the Sustainability Committee as well. So I'll put that on the agenda for our next meeting. And then we can get into budget. So if you look to the PowerPoint that I printed out for you, you've seen the first few slides
I'm
there.
not sure I have that, sorry, didn't,
I put it on, it was there when you got here.
okay. Speak back.
What I would suggest you do, if we skip to the end, if you rip that last piece off and put those two slides side by side, it's probably the best way to have this conversation. So where we left off with the finance committee, we hadn't got into capital requests yet. So on your left, in the green table, those are all of our capital requests, and the recommended dollar amounts and the funding source. So road resurfacing is our annual maintenance according to our paving schedule, as well as drainage and sidewalk improvements. DPW facility is not recommended for this town meeting. We still have more work with the facility committee before we bring that in front of the town. general building upgrades is, I think in the last year or two, the town combined facilities, under one umbrella. So that's for all town buildings. Bennett Street reconstruction, that 150,000, that's for design. And then Tappan Street reconstruction is the actual project. So we'd like to design Bennett Street so that we can ask for the reconstruction costs in a future year. And then standard fleet replacement, that's a part of our vehicle fleet schedule. Central Street culvert is a double backup plan to brick funding not being extended or MVP action grant not being awarded, asking the town to authorize the borrowing for that. It's possible.
We know, yeah, well, we know.
Well, we wouldn't borrow, first of all, we wouldn't borrow it until we needed to borrow it, right? So, but it's possible that we hear back about MVP before town meeting. I doubt we'll hear anything about brick before that.
So you got that at 5 million. But the project's more than that, right?
The brick funding was like 4.7. That's really what's at risk. There was other funding sources from MassDOT, and NOAA. And then I think we had our own, some funding that we appropriated in the past as well.
So those other things are still in play.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep. And with MVP, the NOAA grant can be used as our matching portion for state money. But MassDOT cannot, because you can't match state with state money. So it works out well that we can use the NOAA money as a match. So I think what we do, if we haven't heard yet from MVP or from Brick, we ask the voters to approve or to authorize the borrowing, but we still wouldn't actually borrow. We wouldn't borrow right away. We give ourselves some time to hear about what happens with MVP, and then it kind of all works out to be a scheduling thing.
With that money approved, we could start going out to bid too, correct?
Yes, yeah.
We would
Permits first.
Yeah, but the whole process can start.
Yeah.
It's
Is this all angled for the fall of 2026? Start?
Yes. Yeah, that would be the ideal. Sometime, September to March is really our
Right.
primary window. So hopefully we get permits secured and then funding secured, and we're doing the project in the fall, winter of 26. But if it extends, then we're pushed off to the fall, winter of 27, because we want to minimize traffic impacts during the summertime on, right downtown. And
Probably
There's
a fish
also-
problem as well.
there's also some limitations with the fisheries.
And we will have answer on these funding opportunities or possibilities, Plan A and Plan B, by that time, right?
I don't know, they told us that the MVP action grant application process will get launched in January. We could find out late March. It could be the week of town meeting, in which case you'd still have the question on the warrant. At that point, you'd still have it included in the draft ballot from May. So we'll just kind of have to figure it out.
What is our date for town meeting? Is it the third week?
It's the fourth, I think it's the fourth
Fourth week,
Monday of April.
27th.
So that's really a backup plan. Rotunda, unfortunately, we were told that we did not get the SEC grant for the rotunda. So we have two options there. We could do a borrowing through the town, or we could do borrowing through CPC. Going through CPC, you have two options as well. You could just borrow for it, and then the debt service is paid out of CPC's annual appropriation, or you could temporarily increase the CPC rate to cover that debt burden until it's paid off, to not negatively impact CPC's, budget. The positive doing that way is you get 15-20% match from the state, so you get some savings. But it does increase, temporarily, would it either temporarily increase the CPC rate on residents, or it would temporarily impact CPC's overall budget, for however many years that debt service.
What would be the term of that?
Andrea put together an analysis on that. Andrea, do you remember how many years you were looking at?
I was looking at 20. And that would be about, I believe off the top of my head, $200,000 a year, $220,000 a year. It's about half of what their expected revenue is annually.
That's without a temporary increase to the rate. If you did a temporary increase to the rate, I think that time frame shortens up.
Okay, does the time frame shorten up, or do we, because we're currently at about 1.5. We could raise it to 3.
Right, so I think
And if it's
part of the analysis,
$200,000 a year,
I think part of the analysis that Andrea was doing was to minimize impact to their budget. So if you raise it outside, if you increase it to 3%, you might be able to speed up that pay down. But that's something for us to look at. And then in accounting, we have the municipal financial software replacement. We're deferring on that for the upcoming year. It does need to happen, but we may not even be able to complete that conversion in the upcoming fiscal year. And given the financial constraints, it's something that we felt like we could push off to next year.
Is that something we're doing as unique or part of the, IT consortium we have out of Danvers, collaborative?
I think it's separate from that. This is financial software.
Yeah, see, I'm just saying, there's certain things, like we just talked about compliance. Finances is another one. We're not different. So why would we go off on our own to do something rather than leverage a collaborative? All those towns, cities should be doing the same thing. I think.
I don't know what,
Yeah.
go ahead, Andrea.
I was gonna say, I can answer that. I did speak with a consortium. Like the town of Danvers is our, kind of lead liaison on that consortium. And we talked to them about, they have Munis, a lot of the other communities have Munis. We used to have Munis, and, we could go back to that. But when we spoke with the vendor is not interested in doing a group contract or anything like that. They would have individual, like we all have our own chart of accounts. Yes, they're like standardized, but they're also all different. We have different enterprise funds. We have, it does vary a little bit. So they would still have to have our own individual server, if that answers your question. So it is something that we've discussed.
Yeah, I just think there needs to be more emphasis on those types of discussions, because if, a $20 billion company can use one set of software to run all of its factories, then the little towns and cities in Massachusetts can learn how to do its financials in a way that they can leverage software. But I understand, that there's no incentive for the software supplier to save money, right? For us, right? So, but I think we need to start leveraging our weight.
Computer IT upgrades, that's a standard IT schedule, of replacement. In assessor, the personal property valuation system and Patriot software upgrade are included. The Western Woods land surveying and title research is not included. I believe there's a CPC funding for that. So we were able to shift that out. Under the town clerk, we have pole pad upgrades. In police, tasers and the police vehicle, again, part of the fleet schedule, same with the OIC vehicle for the fire department.
So what's under fleet replacement up towards the top? What is that?
DPW.
That's DPW up there.
Mhm.
That seems like pretty short money. That's
It's just
like
one truck. Yeah, one truck. Each one of these are one vehicle. I think all of our fleet schedules are for those types of vehicles are set up to do one per year. If you had to go get a front end loader or a fire truck, something that
Right.
is in the hundreds of thousands of dollars, we'd be looking at it wouldn't be part of like your.
Right, a separate line.
Yeah.
Well, what's the police truck?
The police vehicle there, it said police truck. I think they're going back and forth on whether they're getting an SUV or like an Explorer or Tahoe or a pickup truck or, they're kind of looking through the numbers under the state
All right,
contract to
so-
decide what is the best way to move forward.
So truck is kind of an all-encompassing term.
Yeah,
It's a car.
it's
Yeah.
It's possible. I think that I did speak with them, as you can see, lower on the list. Harbor Department had come forward with a request for a vehicle and they were looking for an upgrade with the truck. But we might be able to do it. If the police get a truck that can tow, maybe we could do it better, more efficient that way rather than have
I'd
two
to
separate.
see an inventory of all of I won't call them the trucks, the vehicles. I mean, we had done that for the
We
fire
have it.
department, right?
Yep.
And I know the DPW, but it would be nice to see what the little town of Manchester has for vehicles and, how many are new versus just replacing what we have, it just.
All of these are
Just
replacements.
replacements.
These are,
But the
traded.
harbor asked for something new and we said.
that
no.
was, right, yeah. So these are all trade in for a new.
Mhm.
The cardiac monitor AED replacements, are recommended in here. I think they're expiring.
What am I living?
It's actually the third payment of a 3-year payment for those.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
The fire engine replacement fund is something that we typically do on an annual basis. That's something that we're deferring. So that would mean that next year, if it's time to purchase the truck, we'd have $600-something thousand to come up with versus just the additional 3. So I think the town's approach has been to kind of put a third of it away each year or so much of it away each year. So it's not such a big price tag when the time comes. But again, we're really in a tight spot this year, so pushing off on that. Firefighter equipment, I think that's hose replacement. I think that's what is required to be replaced. That I mixed up with the cardiac AED replacement. The construction funding for the ADA bathroom at the library. As you can see, we have that listed as a capital exclusion. And then under the harbor, there's the trailer, The vehicle, both of those we're not recommending. We don't have, we kind of looked more into detail about how to approach that. The vehicle that Harbor has is in need of replacement. It really doesn't satisfy the needs there, but we can get another year out of it.
Is there a way to hand something down from another department?
I think
When we
that's
trade these vehicles in, we're getting nothing for them.
the trade-in, we're getting, it's better than surplus. Actually, we're getting a better value on them than surplusing it. Plus, when you do the trade-in like that, it reduces the cost of the new vehicle versus when you surplus a vehicle, that money goes into the general fund. Then you have to appropriate, the complete cost of the new vehicle. I believe their truck, their Ranger, is a hand-me-down from the DPW or something like that from the past, so. It's,
Well, I'm just
We're
thinking
always
of the
looking at that.
vehicle that we're looking to replace, but you know what I mean?
still, most of the vehicles that we're turning in have,
Much added.
they pretty much had it.
I want to,
Please co-
Tony, I want to go back to the library bathroom. Didn't
Mhm.
we, at some point in the past, learn that the cost was not $300,000 for this ADA bathroom?
Yeah, I have a note on my spreadsheet on my computer that may come down. We still expect it to be, in the 200,000, 250.
Right, right, as I recall.
That may be reduced.
Okay, I think the bathroom was 160 or 170, and then there needed to be some modifications to accommodate the library director.
Yeah, that's why
Put it
I
all
think
together, it was
it could
200.
be like 220. We're waiting for the 90% design and cost estimate to come in any
Okay.
day now.
But Tony, just on some of these vehicles, I mean, what is the typical life that we're getting out of them, mileage, years? I mean, the police cars are on the road, but
Police cars are probably the shortest life, because they're constantly in use, constantly running. I'll have to look at the fleet replacement schedule, but all that it's all in there and kind of estimates what your typical lifespan is
yeah,
on each of
can
those
you send that to us? Cause I really would like to understand what.
Yep.
When we think they're done.
Well, the problem with like DPW vehicles and stuff
You're
is
stopping.
you're fighting rust.
Right, I'm not talking about, we're talking Harbor Master, we're talking other vehicles that are not, there's so many different types of vehicles.
I know. I agree. I've seen the Harbor Master vehicle. It is, that thing is done and it's useless for them. So I agree with that.
Fire admin vehicles, you get good life out of those. The police admin vehicles, you get good life out of those. But the police patrol vehicles,
They're on,
they don't last that, I think we have that scheduled so that you're on a schedule, you're replacing one every single year. And none of them get older than probably 6 or 7 years old, whatever it's in the schedule.
okay, yeah, I'd like to see it if you could.
Yep. The other under Harbor is Morse Pier. We did get that grant that we were notified that SEC approved.
Mhm.
I think that was an SEC grant. We did get the funding for that. So that 116 is our match.
And that's gonna wrap the pier all the way around.
Yeah. Yep. And then we have a separate grant, which I don't think we have any match requirement, that will extend it to the bridge. Yeah, from Reed. Yeah. Yep. So I felt, it was important that we put funding towards our match obligation there. The public safety boats, unfortunately, we did not get the grant for that. We still have a need there, but we think that we can figure out a way with the funding that we have in place to satisfy, our public safety boat issue.
We have two
Well, we have two harbor masts, right? But then they don't, the fire department have one, or the police department?
Fire has a inflatable,
Yeah.
well, it's not an inflatable,
It's a rib of some
it's a
sort.
rib, yeah. So the safe boat that we have, is really costly to the town as far as running it, maintaining it. So
Looks good.
It's,
there's other versions of a safe boat that are less costly that we could pursue and probably.
and it
handle
doesn't work
in-house.
very well because you have to have two people on it, which makes it,
That was the discussion we had last year, right?
yeah, we've had that discussion a few times.
Yeah.
Total cost of ownership includes staffing.
I'm confused because the public safety boats were listed here at $217,000.
Yeah, that's what the request number had come in. I don't think we edited.
Is that the match for the grant? So we're talking about $1 million worth of boats?
That there was a double counting in that 217 number.
I hope
When
so.
we started looking at it and talking through it, because I think the town had appropriated some funds for our match in a previous year, that we can use to, as an alternative way of dealing with the issue, but, so that request was high. I think it was a mathematical error, and I don't think I
It's breathtaking.
adjusted it here. Is that right, Andrea?
Yes, that's correct.
What is the actual number, Andrea, if you know?
We currently have set aside 116,000, which was the original estimate for the grant, for the match for the boat grant. When we went to apply for the grant, it ended up being for 2 boats instead of 1, and therefore the amount of the grant request increased to the two number that you see there.
But even for 2 boats,
Been to the boat show lately?
I'm going on.
It's this week.
weekend.
The public safety boat might have been.
Yeah. You can't
Oh, I'll be
buy- you
visiting
can't
the
buy
harbor
much for
master
100
shack, I
grand
always
these
do.
days.
yeah, but we're talking 2 million.
There's nothing. 2 million?
I don't
No.
think so. I think,
No,
but
I think
Andrea,
there's an extra zero.
No.
Right.
No, I believe the total of the grant application was almost about $800,000
For what?
for 2 boats.
2 boats.
I'm sorry.
Having recently bought a boat, I mean, even looking at, just going to the boat show and dreaming, that's ridiculous. It just doesn't make sense, so.
And
We
these
need to
are,
One of
understand,
them was gonna be outfitted for the fire
we
department.
just
Right.
need to understand.
Right, for-
But how up with,
I don't know. I don't
We-
own a boat. I
I-
have 2 cars. I don't know.
I have some idea about boats, but I wonder why we need firefighting equipment on the harbor.
I think part of well, I might be wrong here, but my understanding was part of getting the grant was because it had fire apparatus on it.
that might have been, sometimes that is an element of a grant, yeah.
But we haven't had anything that's on the shore. We have a fire department. And there was a boat fire
Right on the town ramp.
right on the town ramp. Could have been handled by the fire department.
It was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if we don't have a grant,
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's about, our fire department, we pay to protect our infrastructure here, which includes, our town,
Mhm.
if something happens out in the water, we don't have to entirely devote our taxpayer dollars to that, right? I mean, there should
I
be.
think the idea was that if you had a fire, remember when Manchester Marine burned?
Yep.
Yeah.
Like years ago.
Yep.
You could fight it from the water side if you couldn't get access. I mean, I'm not saying it's gonna,
we
right.
that
I mean,
eventually.
Right, I
Right.
mean,
I think the.
But like you
I think
said, it
the
might have-
timing.
It might have been.
I think it was.
Might have been a thing
component
that
Of the grant. is
if
what I
you
understood.
include that, then it made you eligible for a
Right.
grant,
That's the way I.
which then
understood it.
covers X% of the town's costs. So sometimes that's how you get to that point.
The bo-
I guess
The
it's
boats
a
that we
risk
currently
versus
have.
reward, right?
the boats that we currently have, I think together didn't cost us $200,000.
Oh, how, that might have been,
It wasn't
I'm
very.
not sure how we acquired those.
Oh.
Like the safe boat, if that was,
The safe boat was, the Coast Guard decided that but those particular boats were undesirable and got rid of a bunch of them for very low money.
And then we repowered it though at some point.
Because we were told that those engines were, we were paying just for those engines, and then 2 years later, those engines weren't any good anymore. So,
Well, doesn't look like it's happening.
okay, anyway.
Move
Yeah.
on. Dredging, that is, I believe that's a match as well to a grant. And then we have sewer system improvements and PFAS. So if you look at the table with the blue on it, the far right column is, the requested amount versus the recommended amount, which is the budget that we put together. The biggest issue here is the school budget. We're about $800,000 under what the school requested. So to me, when I look at, if I take a step back and take a look at what the challenges are for us this year, that is definitely a major issue for us. And then when you look at the capital spreadsheet and you have Tappan Street, possibly Central Street culvert, possibly rotunda, library ADA bathroom, dredging, and water system PFAS. That's 6 override questions.
I have a question about the PFAS. So this is just for Lincoln Street well, but how far away are we from round 2 of this?
I think as far as up at Gravelly Pond,
Yeah.
I think the good news is that it doesn't sound like we're gonna need an additional building or a building expansion when it comes time to do Gravelly Pond, so it shouldn't be as expensive as this project. But Chuck's on the call and he can answer.
Yeah, the requirement for that one will be by 20. Right now, it's supposed to be 2029. EPA might extend it to 2031, but we will be, it won't be in when this project is over, meaning we're done paying for it. So it will be, in the next 5 years for sure.
Yeah, so you've seen the long-term capital plan that Greg had put together. Even if you look just to next year, potentially having the DPW facility design, potentially having Bennett Street reconstruction, potentially an elementary school, senior center. That's the other challenge that I see is, how many override questions and at what amount, how much, how often are you gonna ask? Residents to support that. So that's the big challenge. So I look at the list on the left, Bennett Street reconstruction design, we could roll that 150 into the borrowing for Tappan Street. And that would free up $150,000 of taxation that we could put towards the school, gets us a little bit closer. There's another 43,000 that is untouched currently in our budget. So you're getting closer to the school by about 200,000. You could, road resurfacing, we have funded through taxation and fund balance. That could be a capital exclusion question instead of a school override question, and take that 450,000 and put it towards the school budget, and then maybe the school comes down a little bit. We are also looking at OPEB, so we have 2 years left of funding to get fully funded to OPEB. Andrea's has been talking with folks yesterday and today, today and tomorrow, and getting a final number on that. It's, what we could do is we could ask the town to do a general override to fund the cost of fully funding OPEB, and then a general underride to kind of pull it off. It's just a technicality. You can't do a debt exclusion, a capital exclusion for that type of need. So you could pay that off through an override this year, eliminate the burden this year and next year, and then shift those funds towards the school budget.
But that's only buying you a year though.
Well, it would be full, if you do the total amount owed this year and next year, it would get us fully funded.
How much is that?
That's what we're,
Oh, you still.
we're,
Well,
I mean, this year-
I guess
this
what I'm
year-
saying is what happens next year though.
well, so
When you get all these capital projects coming next year too, you're gonna be in the same position.
the capital issues are going to stick around. We're gonna continue to have those. On the operating side, once OPEB is paid off and CST is up and running with some new tax revenue coming in, I feel better about that, but that's a couple years down the road. So on the operating side, is there a way to bridge that gap?
Yeah, but if you're talking override, you're not talking about something temporary, you're permanently increasing. So,
Well, on override, I'm using as a general sense, so if you did OPEB, it would have to be a general override, but you'd vote in a general underride that would kick in right afterwards. For the others, override questions, it's
Debt
either
exclusion.
borrowing or, a debt exclusion, or it's a capital exclusion. Capital meaning you raise it
Right.
in that fiscal year. Debt exclusion meaning you borrow for it, and once the debt hits down the road, it impacts the tax rating. But either way, it's 6, possibly 7, depending on what adjustments we make here, questions. We talked a little bit with the finance committee about rolling them, trying to group them together in a way. But it sounds like the common practice and preferred practice is to be specific on those questions, that fund is for this project, versus a larger amount for a number of projects.
It's been a while since we did a general override. Like 10 or 12 years.
Yeah, your first year on the job is.
Yeah.
There's strike 3.
What
2026 isn't starting off good for me.
what I'm saying is, it's hard to say what our general practice is since we haven't done it in more than a dozen years.
Well, I guess,
been relying on the
there's
property
been capital
values.
exclusion.
There've
been capital
There've been
exclusions.
capital
Yeah.
exclusions, there've been debt exclusions.
Yeah.
But there has not been an override.
Right, because we've relied on the increasing property values and asset growth, property growth to cover the increases in spending each year.
Right, but for example, if we,
That's kind of leveling
That's
off
going the
too.
other way now.
Right.
if you tried to group some of these debt exclusions into one,
Yeah,
so instead
sure.
of having 3 questions, you had 1, but I guess the
The
preferred
The practice
practice
has
has
been
been
for those
specific,
exclusion
yeah.
things, is to make them specific, so you don't lose 2 things because the third one isn't popular.
Right.
So do we know
No different.
what
yeah.
this override would look like on the tax rate?
We're doing an analysis on that for each one of these questions.
So I think it's important. I personally would like to see a chart on the growth of the tax bill, you know, not the rate. Okay, because the rate is just a distribution mechanism.
Yep.
But what people see when they get the bill, right? The past, 4 years and what we are projecting with the budget.
That's hard because it isn't consistent.
No, I know, I'm just
You
the
just-
total.
You take your average home value.
And on that same graph, outline what the inflation rate was that year. It's easy to find those, okay? And the reason I say that is we spend a lot of time talking about individual things, which by themselves are very important, okay? But we're talking about, we've had some pretty big increases in people's tax bills. And it's not getting any better. And I don't know anybody that's getting a 5% raise, let alone a 7% raise or a 10% raise. And then you add on top of it, the health insurance increases that have happened, okay? I know my bill went up by 30%.
Yeah, that's,
Right? We don't want to kill people and send people out the door. So I just would ask that we have a chart that shows in some form, you and Andrea work it out, whatever you think makes sense. But shows the trend line, okay, for the total spend we are asking of the taxpayers, not just the operating, not just they get a bill and the only two line items they see are tax and CPA, I think,
Yeah.
right? When that's what they care about, the bottom line, what does it look like and what are we projecting it's gonna look like? And I just think we need to think about that before we make final decisions.
I think the challenge with that, because I'm right there with you. I look at these things and try to think about what's the impact and what's our obligation, and our responsibility. Is this a need or is it a want? I go through all that. And even some of the needs, I've said, can we get another year?
There are some wants on the list. There are some things that are wants and
I honestly, I think this is narrowed down to less, to needs and less than what we truly need to do. I think we've tried to narrow this down. There are things you could say no to, but there's a compounding effect. See, the issue
no,
is
I'm
that
talking about things like, did we have the senior center design in here or did we pull that out? Was that not in capital?
we don't have that in
We
here.
don't have that in there, okay, because that's a want, because we said we wouldn't fund that with tax dollars.
Yeah.
As much as we love the rotunda, right? Can we do fundraising to help offset some of that cost? No one's gonna, it's important to the town, but it's not the same type of important as public safety and drinking water, right?
Agreed.
And so that's,
Yeah, those,
The problem, I think, with the rotunda is that I don't think you have the time. I think you're gonna get a good storm and that thing's gonna be in the water.
so a lot of these things, that's what kind of where I was going, is that a lot of these things, when I look at this list, you can't really wait on PFAS. You
Right.
can't wait on even dredging. You can't wait on Tappan Street or design for Bennett. The culvert, you really can't wait
the
on.
culvert.
A lot of these things are,
Why
The-
can't you wait on dredging?
I think because we have a grant, I'd have to look at
Okay, fine,
Yeah,
if we have
for
a,
that.
yeah.
But also
The-
but
all
you
of
wait, the
yes,
other part of it is similar
Correct.
to road resurfacing or fleet
Yeah,
schedule or drainage or sewer improvements, like you could wait, but these things just get more costly and they continue to get older.
Yeah, they get
Dredging, it gets worse and worse and worse each year. So you try to stay on a schedule to keep,
Okay.
right? Because don't we do every 10 years, we try to do another section?
that's very theoretical.
I just think it's something we need to look at. The schedules are good, okay? It's good to have that. It's an operational, it's a plan, okay? But to your point, deferring a year here defer, it's not gonna be the end of the world for everything. You're not gonna defer everything. But sometimes we have to prioritize. And I don't think we've had a prioritization discussion. I still don't know, are there other sources of funding? You're right, we can't wait on the rotunda, but maybe there could be a friend of the rotunda community that can do some fundraising because,
Yeah, I'm not saying that that's not a thing, but I think it should have been a thing
I agree
3
with you,
years
but
ago.
if you give me a choice between the culvert and the rotunda, my vote is for the culvert.
Well, how do you know the culvert can't wait another year?
That's true.
So
That's
that's not that I'm disagreeing with
Yeah.
you, but the other side, the other perspective here is some of the reason we're faced with this challenge is because of that process in years past.
I
So
understand.
many things have been deferred
I agree.
and
That's why you have
now
to be
it's all-
selective.
That's what I said
it's all coming.
We're the,
Stuckies.
yeah, we're stuck with 50 years worth of kicking
Right.
that can down the road.
But all I'm saying is schedules are a plan and depending on, like even the vehicle schedules we talked about, okay. You have to do the cost analysis to really understand if you can wait another year, because the technology changes. Whereas, every 5 years.
The problem with vehicles is
I'm
you have
using that as an
to
example.
but you need to physically look at each vehicle. Like you
I get
can't
that.
just look at the numbers and say this vehicle's good or it's bad.
I
You need
agree.
to physically look at that vehicle, just like a house or a building. You need to physically look at it and see what.
I don't disagree with that, but I'm just
You
saying a plan,
Preemptive.
plan is just a plan.
We can't have,
You can't have a
police
truck
vehicles at the
and this is
mechanic.
right, and this
We
is
agree with
what
that.
the town of Wenham does. They drive stuff until it stops and they park in the backyard.
we
And then they have
can't, we
nothing.
can't have a call.
Right.
Whether it be police, fire, DPW, harbor, and you go to turn something on and it doesn't start.
I understand. That's not my point. My point is a plan is a plan. And 10 years ago, maybe the plan was every 5 years because stuff wasn't built as well it is now. And now we've increased it to 7 years or whatever. Okay, have we taken another look at the plan to see whether or not 7 is the right number? And I understand you do have to use, look at each vehicle, et cetera, but I'm just talking about the generalities that are on the chart, okay? We stick to the plan when it makes sense to stick to the plan, okay? But it never hurts, especially when we're in dire straits, which we are right now, to objectively look at the plan and understand the total cost and whether or not you can or cannot defer. Because sometimes you have to pull stuff in because to Jeff's point, the vehicle's falling apart and you plan to replace it 2 years from now, but you can't wait, right?
Yeah.
So plan is just a plan.
Yep.
We have to.
I get what you're saying.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at the whole list here. And when you're talking about vehicles and other things, really, we should be talking about the big money items. There are really half a dozen big money items. They're going to drive all of the borrowing or whatever we do, whether it goes $50,000 or $100,000 for any of these other items. That's not affecting the financials anywhere near as much as those other items. And I think we need to get a kind of a discussion on the big items. And that includes, I'm looking here at the PFAS, the DPW facility, Tappan Street, the culvert, the rotunda, et cetera, and see what people want to do to prioritize here, because that's where the money is. It really is. The rest of the stuff is, I'm not calling it a rounding error, but in the aggregate, it's several $100,000. It is not millions of dollars. And these items are millions of dollars.
I think in addition to what you just said, John, is looking at the items that are in the taxation or the fund balance columns.
Yeah.
That's what I've looked at to try to see, is there a shift there? Because freeing up some taxation or fund balance could be used, really on the taxation side, could be used to help solve the deficit in the school budget.
Well, let's go.
But
The school
either
is,
way,
that's the elephant in the room here.
you're-
Yes.
Like, for instance, road resurfacing. You could do a capital exclusion for that 450,000. But really only 300,000 of that you could put towards the operating budget of the school. It
Okay.
helps, but you're probably still looking at a question of an override of some sort for the school in addition to that. You know, so.
But
is
but
it-
that's not solving the problem. Yeah.
Right, this is the process that we're going through, right?
Okay.
I guess what I'm concerned about is though that we're gonna be in the same position next year. This is what I'm hearing.
Yeah. Yeah, because I mean, especially, I mean, you have Bennett Street, potentially senior center, potentially DPW, public safety building design. And then on top of that, school. You know, that's a big,
So, yeah, so anything we push off a year, we're just dumping on to next year's disaster.
exactly. Exactly, and I think that's possibly part of, you know, what's happened in the past is we've rightfully so, the town's been constrained on what it could afford and reluctant to ask residents to put more towards these items, and then it kind of just builds and builds and builds. I mean, looking at the documents that Greg had put together for the finance committee meetings in the past, I put that, you know, 10, 20, 30-year outlook on for capital. And, you know, yes, once old debt comes off and new tax revenue comes in, it gets a
The
little bit
school debt
easier.
that we're paying now is
Yeah.
supposed to come off and
Yep.
help relieve.
But these next
It
2
sounds like the
years,
debt's coming on faster than it's going on. I mean,
Sure.
we're not retiring.
That's one of the reasons why we need to scrutinize every new vehicle, whatever you want to call it, boat, et cetera, because, you know, a certain number of years later, it becomes something that you have to replace when maybe you didn't have to buy it in the first place. You know, that's, it's scope creep, if you will. It's financial scope creep.
I agree with what you're saying, but I think to John's point, the vehicles are not,
Oh,
you
no.
know, putting a dent in this thing.
Yeah,
I mean,
no, I'm not talking about,
Yeah.
I'm just talking about why we were so picking on the boats and stuff. like
Yeah,
that,
no,
the
I,
new
you know,
stuff,
I get what you're
because
saying.
it's not that we're trying to pick on the boats, we're trying to not add stuff that has to be replaced. Okay, this is why we're not taking a total cost of ownership view, and I keep saying that. We're just talking about a point in time view, and it's hard to make financial decisions when you're not looking.
and it's every town deals with that challenge, and you're debating, you know, when you're looking at it just through the financial lens.
Mhm.
But when you're also, you know,
We're making
know,
a lot of
what's the other
assumptions about
side?
level of service.
what's the level of service
Level
that's
of service is the other
expected?
coin, the other side of the
That's
coin.
Yeah.
And we don't talk about, what we don't do is present the information to the residents in a way that we can engage them and get their feedback on what is important to you. Because if this was a business, you'd outline, here's the cost of doing X, and you can have, you know, bronze level service, silver, or gold. What would you like to pay for? Here's what it would cost, and here's the benefit.
People want gold and they want to pay for copper. I mean.
That's the truth.
It's pretty expensive now. I don't want to pay for it. It's pretty expensive.
Honestly.
But you know, that's,
Good point.
we present the information in a way that just talks about what we're spending. And it's not it's not as helpful in having a conversation around priorities. That's all I'm saying.
I mean, I think that's why you have all these
Yeah.
meetings leading up to town meeting, you know, where you're having a discussion in a public forum. You try and do more and educate people on that leading up to town meeting so they can make an educated.
Yes, I mean, maybe some of your newsletters, right,
Yeah.
your letters in the Cricket or whatever and blogs, and I think we don't do enough about that. We don't talk enough about, here are the decisions we're weighing. Do we do X or Y?
I mean,
Send us your feedback, you know?
I think having 6 or 7 debt exclusion, capital exclusion, override type questions, that's exactly what that is, right? So leading up to that, it's explaining to them the pros and cons of voting in favor or against those questions. That's literally saying, voters, we don't have the funds within our budget to accomplish these things. If we wanna get these things done, you have to pay for it. Outside of your,
But
standard
freezing it in such a way that they understand the total amount, the aggregate, the accumulative, we talk about each individual item and then people say, oh, it's only gonna add, $50 of my tax bill. Okay, well, if we do all these 10 things, your tax bill might go up by $500 and your answer might be different. So how we present financial information has a direct impact on whether or not folks wake up, I guess is what I'm trying to say. It's so I just.
What I'm worried about is $500 this year, $500 next year, $500 the next, this is what I'm worried about.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm seeing here.
Seeing more than that.
Well,
Yeah.
you want to call it that.
Have they ever tried forums on capital? That ought to be a snoozer. But it may be something that, we need to do, or the finance group needs to do to really let people know there are choices that really have to be made here. Because I think we're sitting here and we're not sure which ones, we don't know how this prioritization should go. And I think if we survey each one of us, we'll come out with a slightly different order.
I mean, to Tony's point though, I don't see what you can cut out of this and turn this thing around. I don't see it.
Yeah.
there's really, the operating budget, as you can see, it's, even if you take out the 794,000, that lower part of the blue table, if you take out the school, every category we've reduced. The public works is really because of the trash. So, we've tried to be as conservative as possible, and we're still running into these issues. It's really driven by, the school operating costs, health insurance is a huge one.
Grants that we've lost. We've lost quite a few grants for the rotunda and everything else.
Yeah, that's your capital, that's capital side. I think when you prioritize this, it's your operating side, and then you try to do as much capital as you can in your budget and seek grants for the additional, or ask for the, taxpayers to step up. But the operational side, is where I'm most nervous about. But I also, looking to the future on the operational side, I think it gets better in a year or two once OPEB is off, CST is up and running. We have these other potential housing developments.
So if we
The
took
high
it,
school comes off in 3 years, I
Right.
think.
So I think it's important though to actually show that in a chart or two. And I know you hate charts, but I think visually we talk in abstracts. And I think if you were to show, the dips, et cetera, in a chart, you can have a conversation.
Some of the standards that we're currently, particularly, I think, in terms of the roads. We've been using the COVID money. And that's gone. But I don't remember, the Pleasant Street work was much more extensive and Walker Road.
Yeah.
Than I remember roads being done 15 years ago.
yeah, they just.
15 years ago, you
grind
grind
it,
it and pave it.
Right.
None of this dig up everything and replace it.
But I think sewer projects and water projects have been part of those.
Right.
So that's what expanded this whole road.
Well,
You know what I mean? So they did this water and sewer and then did the road. So that's what. Normally, if you just paving a road, you just pave a road. You're not digging it up to.
That's that first road resurfacing line, that annual resurfacing schedule.
Yeah.
But like Tappan and Bennett are full depth,
Filled up.
sewer, water, drainage, curb, sidewalk, pavement,
Yeah, the whole.
utility, any other underground utilities. So those are major projects. But, and Chuck's on the call, like, I don't think we have any, after Bennett, Chuck, do we have? I don't think we have any major projects like that the following year. We might down the road, but no pun intended. Chuck, are you still on, Chuck?
Yeah, I'm still here.
As far as
Yeah,
the Bennett
we're
or
not
Tappan
looking
type
at
project?
many. I mean, like I tried to say, like we have a plan we have a lot more water main to do, but you guys are right. We don't need to reclaim every road, but certainly the ones that we've been to so far, it's really been required. So, there are kind of engineering practice that we look to make these decisions. And so that's why we've been where we've been and why the price has been the price and, so on. So, but I think after Bennett and Tappan, which is again a full water sewer drain on both and sidewalks and roadway when we get there. I'm looking at more just like cleaning and lining pipeline projects that only require minor resurfacing or mill and pave, which is probably what you guys are more typically used to. But it really hasn't been an option for the roads we've been doing lately.
Well, can you put a scenario for us together about paying off OPEB with let's see what that.
Yeah,
looks
once
like.
we have what that total number is and we'll put that together, tax bill impact and, all of that.
Yeah.
We could, we could just contribute a very small amount to OPEB this year as well.
Right.
But the town's been so close to the finish line of this goal of
Right,
paying
right.
it off.
Yeah.
I'm not saying abandon the goal, but
Once we paid it off, I've had some idea of the magnitude of what we're currently paying year by year, but what we still have to contribute for current employees. What's the difference? What?
Andrew, do you have estimated savings in annual operating expenses once OPEB is fully funded?
I don't, I'm working on that. But it will significantly reduce what we contribute. Because the trust will pay for most of it.
So that's just a number I'd like to have.
Yeah,
before
Yes,
get
so
through.
that's part of that.
that's on my list.
Right, so if you get that, right, then we can make a decision by maybe looking at some of this stuff and saying, okay, if OPEB's gonna be gone in 2 years, that's it, right? Are there some things that we can delay for a year or two? We know we will be able to afford them because we'll have that room in the budget,
Well, the OPEB analysis that we're talking about or possible alternative approach is an operational
I understand,
versus
but when I'm
capital
I
project.
totally get it, but what I'm saying is the school budget, right, for example, we don't see any other trend there but up.
Right.
Right? So I wouldn't want to go in front of the residents and ask for a real Proposition 2.5 override this year, okay, which would permanently increase, okay, our tax umbrella, right? When we know.
Spend up to the levy limit.
Understand, but what I'm saying is we've got a 2-year operational situation, which will get better, right? And the number you're gonna get us is gonna tell us how much better it's gonna get. Once we have that number, we can maybe do a little horse trading, which will help on the operational side, because I understand that capital is separate, but when you get that bill, when a resident gets the bill, they don't care. They don't care.
No, I completely
So
understand
I'm
that.
trying to find relief wherever we can, understanding how bad it is out there right now.
I completely understand. I think the only operational relief that you could kick down the road that I see really is OPEB. you know, kicking a capital project down the road doesn't help you with the school deficit here. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, I do.
So that's why I said that, but you know, really what I just kind of wanted to give you guys an update as to where we are with capital and what I see as kind of our biggest challenges. This is what I'm going to talk about with the finance committee on Thursday night.
Have you heard anything from Essex on this school?
I mean, when we met with them and they presented their initial draft, they spoke about it as if it was pretty conservative, like as if there wasn't much wiggle room there to reduce. They tried to be as conservative as possible with their,
This is the school or Essex?
but when we met with
Yeah.
the school on their tentative budget.
Right, but
and
what's
Essex.
Essex saying?
What is the
Like,
Essex
what kind of position is that putting them in?
Oh, I haven't gotten that. I don't know what they're putting in for their draft budget, what they have the school.
They're in a
at.
slightly better position than usual because the share, their share had been going up. Not that it was as high as ours, but
Right.
going up year over year and this year their share didn't go up as much. So it's
So
just the percentage increase in the budget and not the percentage increase in the budget plus the fact they have
Plus.
more students.
Yeah.
So I think it would be good to have capital and operating as a standing topic on our agenda. As boring and long-winded as it can be sometimes, but the finance committee's meeting weekly now, starting this week, so.
Do they have to schedule yet of which topic they're gonna do which?
That's what they did
No, I
in their
think-
first meeting.
I think they're gonna figure that out Thursday night. And so I can report to you, you know, and you go to the finance committee meetings too, so we could talk about what was discussed at a previous meeting and what, you know, kind of where we are in the process and which direction we're heading in. All right,
Is there a motion?
Move to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye,
Thank you, John.
Thanks.
thank you.
Thank you, Tony. This is good information. We do need to talk about this. Okay, so. Do you? I do have it. I do. I found it. I grabbed it. Thank you.